So how's obviously the fight coming up with Stevenson? So how's training preparation for the fight?
Training camp's been going great. No complaints. This is actually the first time in a long time I've actually had a training camp with like any postponements or delays. So I'm fine. I'm fine, and I'm happy with that.
Yeah. No doubt. I mean, so last time obviously we saw you out was when you fought Carl Frampton, obviously in Dubai.
Yes, sir.
Dominating performance. Obviously got a knockout there as well. Just wondering, did that fight go easier than expected for you?
Definitely did. I actually was expecting a long, grueling 12 rounds because of Carl's experience and his determination. But I'm happy. I'm happy with the outcome.
Yeah, no doubt. So obviously this fight's coming up. Obviously, so this fight coming up. Obviously, there's different narratives that obviously have been played out now. So obviously, you've got Stevenson, a young guy, quite mouthy, quite obviously trying to prove himself. And then there's you, obviously experienced world champion now, old and mature. Obviously, conduct yourself differently. I was just wondering how do you see this fight playing out?
Again, I always expect a tough fight with everybody I come up against, especially with a guy like Shakur. He's young and hungry, of course, like you pointed out, and wanted to prove himself. But I just believe in myself, and I have a great team behind me. So I just take one round at a time.
Is there anything that you've had to do differently in this training camp? Because obviously, I mean, you do have to have the physical superiority at that weight, but then obviously with that comes trying to make weight as well. So obviously, is there anything you have to do now as your sort of career gets on with making weight? And
I think we just had to for starting. Like I'm actually close to my fight weight. It's funny that you said it because today my my strength coach told me that I have to eat a little bit more now because I was losing weight too fast. As you can see, I'm slimming down. But in terms of changing things up, my team always has a different game plan that we approach every fight. Every fight is different, really. So like for instance, Carl, we knew we had to use the distance and the spacing with Carl Frampton, keep him on the outside, as you see, until we soften them up. This fight is different as well. We know Shakur is great with defense, so we have to basically create openings instead of shots and things of that nature.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I remember because I was reading after the Roach fight, there was a lot of stuff you were saying then in the interviews about how you were looking to prioritize rest. You were even using a chiropractor, weren't you, in that point to sort of aid recovery.
Right.
So is there anything? I mean, can you just talk to us a little bit about that? Like, is that something you kept with, like the rest schedule? Like, you've adapted your training in that respect outside the ring?
After the Roach fight, I was suffering from a lot of the rabbit punching in that fight. Yeah. And that's why when you see even in the 11th round when I got hit and I had a late reaction, it's because of all the continuing rabbit punches at the time. So when I had to go to the chiropractor, I wanted to make sure everything was all right. And thank God for my nutritionist. She put me on a different diet plan in terms of recovery. And like it's funny, yesterday I was actually talking about it. I was actually talking about that incident. And I was saying that as crazy as it is, the pandemic was actually was kind of like a grace period for me because it gave me more time to rest. And these injuries over time, medicine can only do but so much and things of that nature. You have to rest your body. So I needed a lot of rest. And even going into the with the Okenda fight, I had to deal with I started camp in like probably April. Then I was scheduled to fight in July, but then I got caught COVID, and COVID basically took a toll on me to the point where I didn't know if I even after the Okenda fight, I didn't know if I wanted to even box anymore because my body wasn't the same. It just wasn't the same, and again, I just needed time off and rest and let all that, all the coronavirus and the effects get out of my system because, my body wasn't taking at that time. My body wasn't taking the punches, the way I normally would take punches. My stamina, everybody knows me. I'm a workhorse, so my conditioning wasn't the greatest, and it just took a toll on me. But when it was time for the Frampton fight to come around again, I just needed just to sit back and rest and do things a little bit differently. Even when we had all the postponements for the Frampton fight, because when Carl when they changed the venue of the fight from London to Dubai, we had to postpone it then. And then when Frampton had injured his hand, we had to postpone it then. My team knew what to do in terms of preparation. So we already had it in mind what to do. And by then, my body was fully healed from, COVID and everything. And you could say I put on one of the best performances of my career that night.
Unbelievable dominant performance. So yeah, I think it surprised a lot of people over here as well, definitely with how dominant that was. Just looking to pick up.
Definitely.
Just looking to pick up, sorry, something you were saying just about the COVID stuff, because obviously there's a lot of contention at the moment, isn't there, around like vaccines and people having vaccines or who does want to have vaccines. And the news came out about Kyrie Irving over here as well, about how he's obviously not playing in the NBA at the moment due to that. I was wondering, I mean, not without any sort of judgment or anything, but have you been vaccinated? Is it something that you have done or?
Oh yes, because I don't want any more delays or postponements.
Yeah.
I understand people's stances on it in terms of not wanting to get it. I respect that. I respect everyone's decision, especially with what they do with their body. But for me, it wasn't a good thing when I caught COVID. So I don't ever want to, potentially go through that again, and especially this far in my career. I don't want any more setbacks. So, I did what was right for me at least, and and just got vaccinated.
Yeah, and you didn't feel any side effects of that or any sort of effects post vaccine?
No, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I think I felt like I said, I felt the old symptoms, but not as severe as when I've had it. Had COVID. Like I felt like a bit fatigued for like a day, but it was like a 24-hour type thing for like a day or so, and I was just a bit like sluggish and dragging. But after I got that out of my system, I went right back to where I left off at.
Yeah. Just picking up as well what you were saying about the rabbit punches, obviously in the Roach fight. Again, there's a lot of I suppose reform, isn't there, coming in sports now, like American football, even rugby over here, to do with CTE and head trauma and all these sort of things. Right. And I was just wondering, as you get more advanced or more along in your career, is it something that sort of plays in your mind at all? Do you think about it at all?
Oh yeah, definitely. This is why I take more time when I'm actually not fighting. I use that time to basically treat myself, my body a lot better, especially that I'm older now. And I just want to be here for like the long term and for my family, more importantly. Like I just want to have my senses there. My senses and everything together, as I may say. So definitely. So it's definitely something that I take into consideration now, especially when you look at just boxing alone. How many bad incidents we had in recent memories just from head injuries. Yeah. Those that is something that I was take very seriously, and I actually try to help others around me in terms of how to take care of themselves to avoid what I went through, or even worse that others have been through.
Yeah. No, that is good, because I mean it's obviously it's a difficult one, I suppose, isn't it? Because obviously it's kind of inherent in the sport as well. Like it is with American football, you're going to have some level of that. But yeah, whether you sort of manage it in sparring or manage your sort of exposure to it, I suppose for long term is, I suppose, a way to look after that, isn't it? Really.
Right.
So I mean, obviously your story about obviously the Marines and boxing and things has been fairly well documented. But I was actually looking from a sort of psychoanalytical sense to see like what do you think is inherent within you that puts you in these positions, which are kind of obviously kind of risky, kind of outside what most people would necessarily put themselves in. What do you think draws you to that kind of? Is it a buzz and excitement, or is it just kind of? I mean, I don't know. I can't empathize with it in that respect, so I'm kind of interested.
For starters, it's the love of the sport. For starters, because I always say when you don't love something anymore, that's when it's time for you to walk away. Because you're just going through the emotions of it. And for me, I always think about my past and where I came from and where I'm at now. That's why you always still see the same Jamel Herring you did 10, 15 years ago. Just down to earth and grateful, because, like I said, I've been deployed to Iraq twice. I've served with men and women that suffered depression as I did in the past, and they're not here anymore. They couldn't take it anymore, and then they lost their lives, or they're giving up their lives, or just giving up, period. So I always look back on those things and say, I could have been, stuck in that rabbit hole, but I chose to continue fighting and pushing. And that's why, you know, even now I don't get too big headed. I don't get big headed at all. As a matter of fact, I'm very grateful. I'm even like I said, even just speaking with you, I'm grateful. And what I mean by that is that you're actually taking time to speak with me about my career. You know, there's been a time when I after I like say when I lost to Dennis Shavkov, where with the sport of boxing is, you know, once you lose or fall off us a bit, no one wants to bother to hear from you or speak with you really. So that's why I always give respect to everyone who actually take time to sit down with me to speak, because I could be somewhere else, you know, and my name could be just floating in the wind somewhere. So for me, you know, I'm just a grounded individual. Like I don't, you know, and I'm just enjoying every day and moment while I'm here, especially as a world champion. And that's just me. But like I said, I always look back to where I've been, what I've been through, to where I'm in now, and I never go the route where saying like, you know, I'm better than anybody in terms of being a person or a human being. I don't ever look down on people, and I'm just, you know, I'm just happy. I'm just happy, and like I said, I'm in a good space right now.
With the love, obviously the love and the sport boxing you have, and how it sort of compels you and moves you, like you're describing. We recently heard Tyson Fury saying, you know, how he's tried loads of things outside the ring. You know, I think he was listing stuff like getting shotgun licenses, going for expensive meals, various other things like that. But then nothing kind of gripped him the way the boxing did. And without boxing, he would essentially, he said, you know, essentially preparing to be sort of lost in a way. Is that a feeling that you can kind of identify with?
Oh yeah, I always give credit to Tyson Fury, because Tyson Fury actually is the reason why I actually came out and expressed my difficulties with life and my battles, and you know, wanting to go get help for myself. So like for instance, Tyson Fury at the time he was going through this, he was the lineal heavyweight champion of the world. He had just beat Vladimir Klitschko, who's a great world champion and a Hall of Famer. And even then, Tyson Fury wasn't happy. He wasn't happy with himself. He wasn't happy with life. And for him to come out and express his story, that takes a real human being and a strong individual to do that. Because a lot of people, they go through things, they'll make excuses, or they'll try to hide it, and when it builds up, it gets worse and worse. So for him to even come out and, you know, explain what he was going through, but then also climb out of that dark area and see where he's at now, you know, that's inspiration. And you know, like for me, I was very depressed. I was very, you guys know my story. I lost a daughter, and that still hurts me today. But I know how to deal. I know how to cope with it in a different manner. You know, I was again like Tyson. I was out there, you know, drinking heavily. I wasn't, you know, listening to anyone around me. I was kind of basically, I was a bit selfish. Like I just was, you know, stuck in my own little circle, own little world. And it wasn't until, you know, the people around me that really, you know, sat me down and said, listen, you're not the same anymore, and you need to really, you know, take a hold of your life and get help. That's when I did that. And here I am now.
Was that through boxing mainly? Was that through speaking to other people, or just how did you process that?
No, I actually went, you know, through being a veteran. I went to the, you know, the VA hospital to go get help and sit with somebody. I never forget. I was sitting with the doctor, and he was saying, and he was just, you know, marking down everything I was saying. He was like, "Wow, man, I'm shocked that you're even still here, because you're severely going through a real bad case of PTSD." And I said, for me at the time, you know, I thought I was just living a normal life, or as normal as I possibly could be. But he was like, "What you're going through is not normal. What you're feeling is not normal." And it's funny. It's a funny story. Even when I first started working with my new trainer, with my current trainer, Brian McIntyre, back in the end of 2017, I was actually doing therapy sessions on my laptop while I was away from home, so I can actually continue getting the proper help that I needed. Like that's how serious I took it. Even in training camp, I was, you know, I would take time like now, around these hours, and I would sit down and I would speak with my therapist, and you know, she helped me get through a lot. And here I am now, years later, from 2017 to, you know, 2021. Now I'm a world champion. So those are the things that I had to go through to get where I'm at. And I'm not ashamed to share my story, because my story can potentially help someone else out there the same way Tyson Fury's story helped me.
In many ways, I suppose it makes you, if anything, more qualified to help other people in that respect, because you can empathise with the severity of what people are going through, and also offer a kind of springboard and be a bastion for hope for those people as well, isn't it? So they can get their own help and assistance that they would also need. I remember reading, you were saying to Donald McRae in a Guardian interview, this was last year, that obviously PTSD is something you still live with, you still get triggered occasionally. And I was just wondering, as a sort of continuation from that, really, like obviously the year's now passed since I read that interview. Would you say that things have improved over that year? Or is it something that you still experience?
Things definitely improve. Of course, you might have a little something that might trigger just a little bit, like to get you on alert. But when you, like I said, after you go get the help, you know how to handle it and deal with it at times. But yeah, now, at one point in time, I would never leave the house at one point in time. Right? But I go train and I'm at the house, and I'm in the house all day. Now, I actually get out there more, especially for my family and my children, to get out there and have fun again. Even though if I go out, I might not be the best guy out there to go, to have fun with at times. I'm still out there just like, okay, whatever. I'm out here though, so at least you got me out. But like they still enjoy my presence of me being around. So and they appreciate that, because they know what I had to go through just to even get to that point. And so I'm still working at it, like as I may say, but I'm doing far better than I was, let's say, 4 years ago.
Yeah. Well, talking of your children, because you've spoken previously about obviously being a parent to couple of children with autism. I was just wondering as well, obviously that's kind of an experience again, which not necessarily many people go through, even though it's becoming more popularized and people are becoming more familiar, I suppose, with what those symptoms are and what the condition is. I was just wondering, could you give us, I'm basically asking, because obviously as a condition it exists on a continuum, doesn't it? There's various severities and it affects people in different ways. Would you be able to give us a kind of brief, I suppose, summary
I have two daughters. I have two daughters that are autistic, but their personalities are totally different. So my wife and I, we kind of like, we're growing with them, like I said. And I was just telling a close friend of mine, it's like, it's funny, because I have two teenagers as well, and it's like, no matter what, you never stop learning as a parent, no matter what. Even your kids could be in their 30s, but you're still their parent. So you still have to learn how to, work with them in that phase as well. So I'm seeing that, like, but with my two autistic daughters, they're the reason why I'm still fighting, because I want to make sure that they get every bit of treatment and help that they could possibly have to still live a fair and honest life like anyone else. But luckily for me, their teachers, they like my 8-year-old daughter Jasmine. She's one of the smartest in her class. She's always into her work, and with her, like, it hits her differently because she can sometimes express herself with her moods. So she'll probably lash out instead of being, and then when she calms down, then she'll realize what she did wrong. But then my youngest daughter, she was born prematurely. Like, she was probably born like 2-3 months prematurely, and she had to basically fight for her life in the hospital for like 3-4 months. So now she's 4 years old, but her development process is a little bit slower, where she's still trying to catch up to her proper age. But now we have her in school, and she's learning how to basically speak at this stage, but she's doing a great job doing it. So, and like I said, it just takes a lot of patience as a parent. Like I said, this is still a bit of like basically putting out like new research to a lot of parents out there who may be frustrated at times, but you got to be patient. And I'm just happy to still see the development and growth, because they're still growing and developing, and they're on the right path.
Yeah, it's interesting to say, because I suppose obviously that and similar to you, obviously with the career that you have and the profession that you're in, obviously you need a sort of family support network as well. And obviously to also have that extended family network for your kids as well, and their development and their struggles as well it's like an interesting parallel at the same time, I think, to see that. But then I suppose coming to that as well, then in the sort of importance of family, and you're obviously talking numerous times about family today and the importance of family to you. And then
Yes.
I remember saying reading beforehand about how your son, your older son now, was fairly distressed once seeing you boxing, and he was pacing up and down, and and all that.
Yeah.
Is that something which kind of affects the family still? Like, obviously, it can't be easy.
No, it's funny. That same individual, he actually wants to come to this fight. I'm looking at him like, wait, what? Like, I don't know if I want you ringside for that, because he was like real nervous when he sees me on TV. So I'm like, you want to actually be there live? But for the most part, they're at the stage where they're just proud of their father, and like, kids, they brag, and this is what my father does. So this is my father. Look at this video. And especially my nieces and nephews. Like, my niece is probably one of my biggest fans. She, like, Brielle, she's old. Like, I didn't even know I was on TikTok. Like, she points out I'm on TikTok, and like, Uncle Mel, did you see you was on YouTube? And so I mean, for the most part, they grasp it, and then because like I said, when I'm home, I always make time. I always make up for lost time. But yeah, the dynamic of how they look at what I do for a living has definitely changed, and in a positive manner.
Yeah. How do you? It's an interesting point. How do you sort of compartmentalize then? Is there a period where you have to sort of switch off and turn into sort of someone else in a way, like when you're going training?
Definitely, because when I'm home, like I said, when I'm home, Jen, she doesn't care. She doesn't care. I'm a world champion. She's like, you're just Jamel. You're just a husband. You're just a father. That's it. And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that, because I don't like, honestly, I don't like going out places and people who actually know personally, they always keep referring to me as just champ. Like, no, just call me with my first name. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
Like, man, when I'm in camp or I'm fighting or whatever, even then I'm still just calling by Mel or Jamel or whatever. But when I'm home, I definitely turn it off. I still tune in to the sport, of course, and that sometimes annoys everybody that I want to put on the latest fight. But for me, I know how to turn off, and I know how to become dad or just Jamel, and that's it.
Yeah. You were talking obviously as well about how you're fighting for your daughters and everything, and continuing that as a motivation. Are you one of those guys that has a kind of plan career-wise, like how long you're going to go on for roughly, or is it something you just take fight by fight and see where it goes?
I mean, like my plan is to always be involved with boxing, even when I'm done fighting myself. But like I admire, things like Carl Frampton's doing. Carl Frampton's doing commentating. I've done a little bit of commentating over recent memory. So you always want to be involved with something that you love. But that's something, like, even now, I'm managing fighters, and like I said, commentating and just doing other things. Sometimes some people even think I'll probably be a trainer someday. I don't think I have the patience. I'm still working on patience. But but the point is, I do have things set in my mind that I want to do. So I don't wake up one day after I'm done fighting, I'm just say, okay, what am I doing? What do I do next? No, I want to put things in motion now. When I stop fighting, I can just quickly jump into what I already had been doing or had already set up in the past.
Yeah. No. Well, thank you very much for speaking to us. I was a really compelling chat as well, man. The story obviously is one of the most remarkable stories in boxing that there is today, but also just it's interesting to seeing you. I've studied obviously a lot of your interviews prior to this interview as well, and just also seeing you kind of in the place you're at now, even in communicating and like the engagement in your eyes.
You see, I'm human. Like I said, I'm human. Like, people look at me as, I fight on TV and I'm this and that. No, like, me and you had a great conversation, and I came up just like a regular, ordinary person you'll see on the streets. That's just me.
Yeah. No, it's surprising, because I've spoken to guys who are, put it this way, a lot lower down the pecking order.
They're full of themselves. A lot of guys are full of themselves.
They talk like they're all-time greats, yeah. And then, which I suppose in a way you think, maybe you need that confidence, but maybe you don't. If you're able to kind of conduct yourself in a certain way, but still be confident.
It's always great. It's always great to think highly of yourself, but you don't have to, always throw it in people's faces. Like, of course, like for me, I don't complain when I don't get, the credit or whatever some people I feel I deserve. I just look at it like this: my body of work over time will showcase and show why I was special in my own way.
Well, how have you felt? I mean, because obviously, if you take like this fight, and then obviously the Frampton fight, and even the fights again are getting to a certain magnitude now. We've seen a boxer's career, don't they? You got like lower, smaller halls, and you get to this stage now where every fight's big now. Is it something is it something that you feel like you've changed at all with it or not?
I mean, that thing again, like we spoke on earlier, is a few years ago, nobody would have thought I'd have been in these big fights. So of course I'm enjoying the ride, and I'm happy. And like even going from a fight from Frampton to Stevenson, you got if I come out with another big performance, I'll just be honored. I'd be honored just to be mentioned for Fighter of the Year, because it's been a great year for me so far. So and I'm fine with that. I'm not going to go out there and say I'm the greatest or this and that. Like, no, because again, my resume and body of work will prove over time where I stand out in history.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing. Now the stage you're at the moment is that kind of legacy defining sort of stage, isn't it? Like, it's coming. There's big fights, how you perform. The Frampton performance, obviously, massive props and respect, and got a lot of attention over here as well. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for the Stevenson fight as well, man. I think it'll be a great fight.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just in the sense of like, I mean, like just from the guys in the office, we're talking about different styles and how obviously Stevenson's known as being fast. How you're going to try and negate that? You've obviously got reach, experience, get around, set shots off as well. Obviously, power. You stop Frampton. So
I'm strong. I'm stronger. I'm bigger, and for me, I just know when it's time to bite down and fight. And that's what I meant by earlier, how I look at the difference with this fight and the Frampton fight. With this fight, if you let him sit back and do whatever he wants to do, he's gonna pick you apart all day. But you gotta make fighters uncomfortable, and you gotta make them fight when they don't want to fight. And that's how I look at things. And like I said, I always approach every fight differently. Like I said, the Frampton fight, I wasn't so much looking at in terms of using my size to his advantage. It was more of using my reach, because I knew Carl had to actually get in on the inside to do anything. And then, but then when he did get on the inside, we had a game plan for that, and it cost him. That's why I hit him with the uppercut.
Those uppercuts are coming Monday, yeah.
Exactly. So, so we had a plan for everything that we in mind that we thought that Carl Frampton would try to pull off and do, because we knew. I mean, one thing I know, because I like Carl Frampton. Carl was one of my favorite fighters to actually watched a lot coming up in my own right. And one thing I noticed is that he has to get close for that famous left hook to the body. So that's why if you look back, I made sure I had this elbow firmly tucked, because I knew that strong left hook was going to come. But the moment that I felt that punch, you got to shoot up the left uppercut. Boom, boom, just like that. Hey, Julie.
No, I think that's the thing, because it was. I mean, I'm not just saying this as I'm talking to you, but it's kind of the build-up that you kind of think a lot of boxing fans prefer to appreciate, is the fact that there was a time when you look at it going, okay, obviously you wanted to fight Carl Frampton and, stuck through it, but there were times when it got postponed. Do you think actually it could have been quite easy for you to dip out and take another fight, or even for Carl as well, or to get into trash talking? But it wasn't even like that. It was kind of good-natured in the build-up, and then you just get to the fight, and it is what it is. Like, the spectacle takes care of itself, rather than, I don't want to mention any names, but obviously the trash talking element of stuff and things. And after a while, you think, I can't be dealing with it, man. Like, it just doesn't. We've heard it so often. It's just I don't really care about it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I respected him, and he respected me, and it was. And the thing is, we didn't need trash talking, and people still tuned into a good fight, and they still talk about it today. So that just goes to show you that character goes a long way.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I'd like to, so just on that note as well, I think I'd just like to thank you for taking the time out.
No problem.
Like a human being element, like a standard conversation, like a good two mates having a conversation. Thank you very much for that. And also, obviously, best of luck.